Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story: a former U.S. Army sergeant could face up to 10 years in prison. This after he pleaded guilty to offering key U.S. defense secrets to Communist China. Chinese signal jammers are flooding the U.S., with seizures soaring by more than eightfold since 2021. Officials warn these devices pose serious threats to public safety and could even disrupt military operations. Florida is cracking down on two firms over Chinese-made medical devices. Officials warn patient data could be funneled overseas through hidden backdoors. Over 1,200 mystery seeds from China intercepted in Texas. We hear from the state's agriculture commissioner on the potential risks and why planting them could be dangerous. And nearly half of China's oil imports are passing through the Strait of Hormuz. And the escalating Israel-Iran conflict is putting this vital lifeline for the Chinese Communist Party at risk. We break down what's at stake. A former U.S. Army soldier now facing years behind bars for attempting to sell U.S. defense secrets to Communist China. Joseph Schmidt pleaded guilty Wednesday to 2 felony charges. According to the Justice Department, Schmidt had access to highly classified intelligence during his service. Schmidt served as a team leader in a key Army intelligence unit at Joint Base Lewis McChord, a major U.S. military hub in Washington state. The Joint Army Air Force Base plays a key role in countering China's military threats. It's home to America's 1st Corps, the Army's operational command for the Indo-Pacific. It conducts joint drills with U.S. allies like Japan and Australia. During Schmidt's 5 years in the Army, Schmidt had access to top defense secrets. He left the military in 2020. According to court documents, shortly after leaving service, Schmidt emailed the Chinese consulate in Turkey and Chinese intelligence officials, offering them classified U.S. military information. He then traveled to Hong Kong, where he continued pursuing deals with Chinese contacts. He lived there for about 2 years before being arrested by the FBI upon arrival in San Francisco in 2023. The Justice Department says Schmidt recorded multiple documents outlining high-level U.S. military secrets in detail. He also allegedly helped a Chinese tech company design a device to decode U.S. military intelligence systems. Now, Schmidt faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. His sentencing is scheduled for early September. Schmidt's case isn't isolated. Just 3 months ago, federal agents arrested 3 other military personnel for allegedly leaking defense intelligence to China. 2 of them are active duty soldiers from the same base as Schmidt. The number of Chinese-made signal jammers seized at the U.S. border has skyrocketed by a whopping 830% since 2021. That's even as Chinese companies try to dodge inspections by U.S. border officials. Homeland Security warned Wednesday that these devices pose serious risks to both aviation and public safety. And on a national level, some of the more advanced jammers could even disrupt U.S. military operations. Signal jammers are devices used to block or disrupt radio frequencies, and that can seriously affect how first responders react to emergencies. They're illegal in the U.S. because they can interfere with law enforcement communications and critical infrastructure. Homeland Security says illegal migrants from South America have used these devices to block police communications, especially during crimes like burglaries or bank robberies. In fact, these cases have popped up in states like Florida, Texas, and Virginia. These jammers can block signals from GPS devices, cell phones, Bluetooth, and even drones. And they're not just a threat to police. High-powered jammers can interfere with emergency broadcasts, and in the wrong hands, they could be used to jam U.S. military systems during a crisis. A 2024 U.S. congressional report says China's military has been heavily investing in electronic warfare, specifically targeting U.S. forces. That includes technology that could disrupt the vital communication links the U.S. military and armies rely on during combat. Florida is cracking down on 2 medical companies selling Chinese-made patient monitors. The Attorney General warns these devices might be sending sensitive patient data straight to China. Here's what you need to know.
The 2 companies are Contact Medical Systems and Espionage. Florida alleges Contact concealed serious security problems in its products. That includes a built-in backdoor that could allow bad actors to manipulate data on the devices. Another issue is programming that automatically sends patient information to an IP address that belongs to a university in China. The Attorney General called the problems a major consumer protection issue. Epsomed confirmed they have received the Attorney General's request and they are cooperating. Contact didn't immediately respond to a request for comment from the Epoch Times.
Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller says the state has intercepted 1,200 mystery seeds from China. He warns residents to take this matter seriously, as foreign plant species could take root and harm the state's agriculture industry. NTD's Steve Lance spoke to Commissioner Miller to get the latest on the investigation.
Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, thank you so much for taking some time for us.
Glad to be with you today.
Commissioner, you issued a statewide warning in your state of Texas yesterday about a fungus that can infect crops like wheat, corn, and rice. Federal authorities recently charging 3 Chinese nationals with smuggling this particular fungus. If you could, Commissioner, how serious is this threat, and do you suspect there may be other similar cases?
Well, I think it's a real serious threat. This is, we had one instance we caught a Chinese national smuggling in a virus. We had a second instance where we caught a Chinese national, a professor at the university smuggling in a virus. Then we caught another one, Chinese national, smuggling in nematodes that we don't have, which is a microscopic organism that affects crops and keeps them from growing out properly. And then just this weekend, we caught, through the sheriff's office, my biosecurity team apprehended a Chinese national, either releasing ants. We don't know exactly what the deal is on that. We haven't concluded that investigation. We're trying to get Texas A&M to identify the DNA in those ants, if they were even native to the United States. So it's becoming a real problem.
Now, are the residents of Texas aware of what to kind of look for and keep an eye out for? And what steps should people take if they encounter any of these types of things?
Well, first thing to do is contact the Texas Department of Agriculture. And you can do that by calling TELL, TELL-TDA, TELL-TDA, 1-800-TELL-TDA. We'll get an inspector right out there. We haven't talked about this, but we are intercepting mystery seeds coming from China. We picked up about 1,200 of those. They're coming straight from China. They're not going to a distribution center. Most of these people are somehow linked to a company called TEMU, T-E-M-U. It's kind of like America's Amazon. These mystery seeds are showing up. Some of them have an unidentified liquid with them. We've even intercepted unknown plant material coming in. So I don't know if it's a test of our biosecurity system. This could just as easily be anthrax or ricin or some other biological weapon coming through the mail. So if you get one of those, also call your Texas Department of Agriculture, or if you're in another state, call your agriculture department in your home state. Please report those. Don't plant the seeds. Don't throw them in the trash. We don't need them sprouting at the landfill. Call us. We'll pick them up and destroy them properly.
Now, Commissioner, is this related to what you've been advising about, telling the public to be cautious of unsolicited packages from China, containing these types of things that you're talking about? And talk to us about if somebody gets some seeds that look, like something they might want to plant, what type of damage it might cause to the earth and the environment.
Well, don't take a chance of ruining our whole country, our whole agriculture production system. We don't need invasive plants. If you don't know even if you think it's corn or squash or okra or something like that, don't plant it. We've got good. I'll send you some seeds if you need good seeds. Let me know. We'll get you the proper kind. But please report those to us. Let us pick them up. We'll dispose of them properly after we have properly identify them and see if it's an invasive species. We have gotten some that are definitely invasive species, some water lilies, lotus lilies. We do not have those in the United States. They can take over a whole lake system and render it inoperable. So we don't need that. Do not plant these seeds.
Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, appreciate you taking the time for us.
Anytime, my friend. God bless.
As Senate Republicans work towards advancing the president's big budget bill, debate is emerging about how aggressively to slash green energy tax credits from the Biden era. Despite the subsidies are meant to shore up domestic clean energy supply chains, Chinese solar panel makers have been taking advantage of it and setting up shop in the U.S. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more.
The Senate's budget bill phases out green energy tax credits, though less quickly than the House's version of the bill. It's an issue Republican senators aren't unified on. Some want a less aggressive approach. Senator Tom Tillis wants a targeted approach and not a full repeal. Senator Shelley Capito, whose state is home to hydrogen hubs, wants more flexibility on the timeline. Meanwhile, Democrats are railing against the repeals altogether.
I can tell you this Senate bill, as it's written now, is a stake in the heart of the solar manufacturing industry. And the reason this is so important is because of growth, we need more energy. And even people who run gas companies are saying we need the electrons from renewable energy.
The Energy Secretary this week pushed back on the idea that the administration aims to stop the solar industry from advancing.
Nobody's proposing to stop solar power, right? The idea is it's been subsidized for a quarter of a century, and it should compete on its own. And it will. Solar will continue to grow. It'll continue to get built. That's happening right now.
The Senate's bill will phase out solar tax credits slowly, an approach some Republicans aren't happy with. Congressman Chip Roy said this must be changed or the House loses his vote. Roy said the president rightly campaigned on terminating the Green New Scam subsidies. It's destroying our grid. It's subsidizing China. China currently dominates solar manufacturing. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Coming up, nearly half of China's oil imports are passing through the Strait of Hormuz, and the escalating Israel-Iran conflict is putting this vital lifeline for the Chinese Communist Party at risk. We break down what's at stake. And residents in southern China are battling severe floods, but heavy rains might not be the only cause of their losses. Who have reached out for on-the-ground reports. That and more in just a minute here on China in Focus. Welcome back to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Iran is threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz as its conflict with Israel escalates. But the biggest economic blow could hit China, not the West. NTD Washington correspondent Luis Eduardo Martinez has more on the story.
I think any American intervention would be a recipe for an all-out war in the region with very, very bad consequences for the whole international community. We are in contact with almost all countries, including China and Russia, and we are trying our best in order to mobilize international community's unified response against this act of aggression.
Just as Iran had its so-called axis of resistance with Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis in Yemen, the now deposed Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad, and militias in Iraq, so does the Chinese Communist Party rely on its proxies to wage asymmetrical war against the United States through Iran, North Korea, and Russia. And just as Iran was left severely exposed after Israel and the United States dismantled its axis, so can the Chinese Communist Party be severely weakened if its proxies fall.
Right. If we attack Iran, and it looks like we're going to do that, there's a number of things that people have warned about that are likely to happen. Closing the Straits of Hormuz, shutting off, therefore, about a quarter of the world's oil supply. That will sink stock markets around the world.
I mean, the only things that Iran can really pull off are attacking American troops with missiles in bases in Iraq, blowing up the Straits of Hormuz that they, for a few weeks.
Half of the oil that fuels the Chinese Communist Party's economy transits through the Strait of Hormuz, with Iran being its largest supplier. Israel has targeted Iranian oil infrastructure without affecting U.S. oil prices.
It went after oil storage and oil refineries in those depots, as well as, of course, the targeting of gas facilities in Iran South.
A weakened Iran not only affects severely the flow of military drones to Russia for its war in Ukraine, but it also becomes a liability for the Chinese Communist Party's economy.
If they don't have any deterrent capacity, that means that they're going to be essentially a Hamas-type threat, but much, much bigger. And so the long-term implications of that I think are much greater.
The Chinese Communist Party took 4 days to respond to the outbreak of the conflict in between Iran and Israel and has offered to negotiate a peaceful solution. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Southern China's Guangdong and Hunan provinces are facing severe flooding this week, with roads and homes submerged under rising waters. Communications and traffic have been cut off, leaving many people suffering heavy losses. Some residents tell us they suspect local authorities' mishandling has made things worse, including the sudden release of large amounts of water from reservoirs without warning. To protect their safety, NTD has distorted their voices.
Yes, they're releasing floodwaters. The water level has risen very high, and the city is not able to discharge floodwaters anymore. The whole Maoming city is flooded. People are suffering with significant losses. Many cars have been submerged, and a lot of farmland is underwater. The roads in the villages are all waterlogged.
The reservoir located upstream is full, and they have started releasing water, causing the water level to rise even more.
Local residents in Maoming say the largest reservoir located upstream released floodwaters into the surrounding areas, causing water levels to rise rapidly. Video footage captures raging floodwaters tearing through streets and engulfing buildings. In some clips, the water reaches up to the height of the second floor of a building.
There was no warning. The water came so fast, within 10 minutes the first floor was basically completely flooded. At the marketplace, the water is already over 2 meters deep.
Too much water has flowed down from upstream into the Waichi village. I don't even dare to sleep. My shop was already flooded. The water was up to my neck.
Official reports say more than a dozen villages and towns have been hit by the floods, affecting over 180,000 people. But the true scale of the disaster remains unclear. The Chinese regime has a history of hiding real data during catastrophes. Critics say the state-owned reservoirs are a key factor behind the flooding. China has built many hydropower facilities across the country, which generate huge profits for the regime. But during heavy rains, authorities release floodwaters to protect these reservoirs. To avoid triggering objections from local residents, officials often keep these water releases secret. Rare earth magnets are vital to America's national security, especially those used in U.S. fighter jets like the F-35. The F-35 specifically requires samarium cobalt magnets, which depend heavily on China's supply. NTD's Carrie Dunn spoke with David Argyle, mining expert and CEO of Realloys, about how U.S.-China talks over rare earth magnets affect national security.
The F-35 requires samarium cobalt, so they don't have another magnet type. The United States, Japan, all of the G7 countries have allowed over time for China to take over the supply chains, not just for rare earths, but also for other critical minerals. And this predominantly was driven by costs. And in order to reverse the and bring back jobs to America, you have to have a customer base that is willing to pay the cost to manufacture here. And this is the challenge.
As they say, cheap is expensive, so there's no alternative to using this particular type of magnet. And are you saying that really the only way to obtain it at the moment is through China?
That would be technically correct. However, there is a number of moves afoot to rapidly re-onboard samarium metal manufacturing in North America. Our company, Realloys, has already started this process, and we've already managed to produce at bench and pilot scale some samarium metal. It was always possible to do it, but if everyone wants cheap, 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 it's very hard to compete. If the technology is here and we have it, all we need now is to explain this is how much it really does cost. The amount of samarium in a F-35 made in America is insignificant to the cost of the jet.
How long would it take to be able to fully meet our needs not from China?
On the samarium metal, that can be accomplished by end of Q2 2026, so approximately a year. And then for the samarium cobalt magnet, it would be independent of China.
So it sounds like for the short term, we do the dance with China. Trump had posted that the deal with China had been reached in London, and it would include these important materials. But Reuters actually reported that these materials would be carved out from any deal. So where does the U.S. stand in terms of the current deal to get these important materials from China?
I think if you look at the magnet space, China is probably completely fine with exporting magnets for what we call general use, refrigerators, portable speakers. When it gets to key industries, which would be automobile manufacturers, they're probably okay with that. But what China is doing is, if it's magnet for strategic industries, they are claiming that magnets for automakers could be used for defense purposes, and therefore China is playing at the edges, and the world knows that. So there is a path through. It will take a concerted effort led by the United States, but by the support of the other G7 countries to resolve this. It will be resolved with will on all magnets, all types of magnets, by 2027. So we only have 18 months to go, and I'm sure there'll be a bridge, and there are a number of bridges. The U.S. has national defense stockpiles, the Japanese have strategic stockpiles, and their trading companies as well. So there is a bridge through. I'm sure President Trump will be able to finesse this time lag to make sure it works out. But what China does do successfully, it puts pressure on by denying magnets for, say, the automobile sector, claiming that those magnets could be used for defense, and then they use that as political pressure. President Trump knows how to deal with political pressure.
Well, it just really reveals a very interesting and important national security component to the way that these negotiations are unfolding. We appreciate you joining us this morning, David Argyle. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
That's all for today's China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. If you have any feedback on the show or have something you'd like to see us cover, send us an email at chinainfocus@ntd.com. We'd love to hear from you. For round-the-clock original news coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for watching. See you soon.